Lily pressed her forehead against the cold window, staring at the reflection of her own brokenness. The pharmacist shook his head gently, confused by her strange request. "Forget someone?" he repeated, his voice soft but pitying. "I'm sorry, dear, there's no medicine for that." She managed a trembling smile. "Then maybe I'll just take something to sleep forever." The words hit like quiet thunder. People in line turned. The pharmacist froze. But before anyone could speak, a deep voice from the doorway cut through the tension. "Wait," the man said. His tone was calm, powerful, the kind of voice that made rooms pause. He stepped forward, umbrella dripping, black coat gleaming with rain. "If I could give you something to forget, would you really take it?" Lily turned, startled. He looked like someone from another world, sharp suit, expensive watch, eyes too tired to belong to his age. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence between them told everything. "I just want the pain to stop," she whispered. The billionaire, Ethan Cross, studied her for a long second before reaching into his pocket. He didn't pull out pills or prescriptions. Instead, he handed her a small card with a golden crest. "Come here tomorrow. My driver will bring you. I might not have medicine, but I have something that could help." Confusion flickered across her face. "Why me?" He gave a faint smile. "Because I once asked for the same thing." As Ethan walked away, the rain seemed to fall quieter. Lily stared at the card until the gold letters blurred. Cross Foundation, Private Medical Wing. That night, she sat in her one-room apartment, clutching the card like it was both hope and danger. The walls were thin, the ceiling leaked, and her phone screen glowed with unread messages from someone she still couldn't block. His name, Daniel, haunted every breath. They had once dreamed of escaping poverty together. But dreams die differently when one heart gives up first. Daniel had left for another woman, a richer one. For Lily, that betrayal wasn't just heartbreak. It was a wound that refused to close. The next morning, Ethan's black car appeared like a shadow outside her building. The driver, polite and silent, held the door open. The city blurred past as they drove to the edge of town, to a private hospital surrounded by gardens and glass. Inside, white corridors hummed with quiet machines. Ethan was waiting in a sunlit room. "You came," he said, setting aside a cup of coffee. "You said you could help me forget," she replied softly, her voice hollow. He nodded. "I can't erase memories, but I can show you how to heal them." She frowned. "That's not what I asked for." He looked out the window for a long time before answering. "And yet, it's what you need." For hours, they talked. About pain. About love that lingers even when it's poisoned. About how people try to drown their memories instead of learning to breathe through them. Ethan told her how years ago, he had loved someone too. Someone who died because of his mistake. "I built empires to forget," he confessed quietly. "But the more I tried, the louder her memory screamed." Lily listened, tears tracing silent paths down her cheeks. For the first time, someone didn't dismiss her pain. He understood it. "If you were there in that moment," Ethan said finally, "and someone begged you to erase what hurt them most, what would you do?" She didn't know. Maybe she would have said yes. Maybe no. He smiled faintly, standing up. "Think about it. Then come back tomorrow. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest. Comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters." Outside, as Lily stepped back into the evening air, she realized something strange. The rain had stopped, but her heart still carried its storm. She looked up at the sky, wondering whether forgetting was mercy or punishment. She didn't know yet. That meeting Ethan Cross was about to change everything she thought she understood about pain, love, and memory. The next morning arrived in soft shades of gray, like the sky couldn't decide whether to rain again or finally let the sun through. Lily woke up early, restless, staring at the ceiling where cracks shaped like rivers crossed above her bed. She hadn't slept much. Ethan's words kept circling in her mind. "I can't erase memories, but I can show you how to heal them." She wasn't sure what healing even meant anymore. To her, love had been a wound disguised as warmth, and now, even the memory of it burned. Still, she went. The black car was there again, waiting quietly like it had all the time in the world. The driver didn't speak, just nodded and opened the door. Inside, the world felt distant. Tinted windows, soft music, silence thick with questions. When she arrived at the Cross Foundation, Ethan was standing by a white piano in the center of the lobby. The morning light poured through the high glass walls, painting him in gold and shadow. He looked different, less like a billionaire, more like a man trying to remember something he'd lost. "I wasn't sure you'd come back," he said. "I wasn't sure either," Lily replied, clutching the strap of her worn-out bag. He gestured toward a quiet garden outside. "Walk with me." They moved through the path lined with lavender and small fountains, the scent of wet earth lingering in the air. Ethan spoke first. "You asked for medicine. But memories aren't poison, Lily. They are mirrors. You can't drink them away." Her voice cracked. "Then what do I do when they hurt?" "Learn to face them, piece by piece, until they stop owning you." She scoffed softly. "Easy for you to say. You have everything." Ethan stopped walking. "I used to think that too, until the one person I loved died because I couldn't stop chasing more." His voice broke for the first time, revealing something raw beneath his calm. "Her name was Grace. I thought money could fix everything, but it couldn't fix losing her." The wind stirred between them, carrying the faint sound of the fountains. Lily didn't speak. The heaviness of his confession lingered like perfume, painful yet honest. Inside the hospital wing, Ethan led her into a room filled with drawings. Hundreds of sketches hung on the walls, faces, eyes, tears, smiles. "These," he said, "were made by people who came here broken. Each one of them wanted to forget someone too." Lily stepped closer, studying the pencil marks. Each stroke seemed to hold a heartbeat. "Did it help them?" she asked. He nodded. "It didn't erase their past, but it reminded them they could create something new." He handed her a small notebook. "Start here. Draw what hurts." Lily hesitated, then took it. The first line she drew was shaky, the outline of a man's face fading into the page. Daniel. His smile, the promises, the betrayal. The pen trembled in her hand, and a tear splashed onto the paper. "I can't do this," she whispered. "You already are," Ethan said quietly. "Pain isn't a wall, Lily. It's a doorway." Hours passed. She drew. She cried. Ethan stayed nearby, silent, giving her space to fall apart. By the time the sun dipped low, the notebook was half full of faces, words, and little fragments of her heart. As she left the room, she turned to him. "Why are you helping me?" He smiled faintly. "Because once, someone helped me when no one else would." Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. That night, Lily walked home differently. The streets were the same broken lights, same smell of rain and smoke, but something inside her had shifted. She reached her tiny apartment, placed the notebook beside her bed, and stared at it. For the first time in months, she didn't open her phone to check Daniel's profile. She just sat in the quiet. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly, distant and low. In another part of the city, Ethan sat in his office surrounded by stacks of letters, all from people he'd helped through the foundation. But one photo on his desk caught his eye, a woman with bright eyes and a gentle smile. Grace. He touched the edge of the frame. "I hope I'm finally doing something right," he murmured. The rain began again, soft and steady, washing the glass in silver. Lily, somewhere beneath that same sky, closed her eyes and whispered to herself. Not a prayer, not a memory, but something in between. Maybe healing isn't forgetting. Maybe it's remembering differently. Days began to blur into a rhythm that felt strangely healing. Every morning, Lily returned to the Cross Foundation, a place that had once seemed unreachable, now quietly familiar. The nurses greeted her by name, and the scent of coffee from the lobby mingled with the faint sound of piano keys that Ethan sometimes played when he thought no one was listening. He always kept his distance, just enough for her to find her strength without leaning too much on his. Yet somehow, his presence had become her calm. One afternoon, while sketching under the wide oak tree in the garden, Lily noticed a little girl sitting alone on a bench, staring at her bandaged arm. Her name tag read Mia. Lily smiled softly. "Hey there. That's a pretty brave bandage you've got." Mia looked up shyly. "It's not brave. It hurts." "Sometimes brave things do," Lily said. The girl tilted her head. "Are you sick too?" Lily hesitated. "Not in my body. Just in here," she said, pressing her hand to her heart. Mia nodded like she understood more than her age allowed. "My mom says hearts heal slower than bones." The word struck Lily with quiet force. She smiled through the ache. "Your mom's a wise woman." "She used to be." Mia's voice softened. "She's in heaven now." Lily's breath caught. For a moment, she saw herself in the child. Small, hurting, trying to understand why love leaves. Without thinking, she held out her hand. "Then we'll sit together, okay? Just for a while." Ethan watched from the balcony above, unseen, his eyes unreadable. He saw the way Lily's sadness turned into something softer around the child. Something healing. Later, when Mia was taken inside for treatment, Ethan joined Lily by the oak tree. "You handled that beautifully," he said. "I didn't do anything," she murmured. He shook his head. "You listened. Sometimes that's everything." Lily looked up at him. "You sound like someone who's been through this before." "I have," he admitted. "But watching you today reminded me that broken people can still fix others, piece by piece." There was a pause, a kind that said more than words could. "Why do you really do all this?" she asked. "The hospitals, the charity, the helping." Ethan smiled faintly. "Because guilt doesn't vanish when you ignore it. It only quiets when you turn it into kindness." She nodded slowly. "So, that's your medicine." He looked away, the sunlight glinting off his watch. "Maybe it's everyone's." They walked together through the garden, not as billionaire and beggar, but as two souls quietly learning how to breathe again. As evening settled, Lily stood by the glass wall watching the city lights flicker on, one by one, like tiny beating hearts in the dark. Ethan joined her. "You know," he said softly, "you're stronger than you think." She turned to him, eyes tired but glowing. "No, I just learned to fall slower." He smiled. "That's strength too." They both laughed gently, a sound fragile yet freeing. "Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight." Later that night, back in her apartment, Lily couldn't stop thinking about Mia. She opened her sketchbook and began to draw the little girl's smile, the bandage, the hope still flickering behind her sad eyes. And beneath it, she wrote, "Healing begins where someone listens." The next morning, when she returned to the hospital, she found the bench under the oak tree empty. One of the nurses noticed her searching glance and said quietly, "Mia's surgery was successful. She's going to recover." Lily exhaled, her chest lighter. For the first time in months, she felt proud of something again. Ethan met her in the hallway. "You've changed," he said, noticing the calm in her face. "Maybe I'm just tired of being sad," she replied. "Or maybe you finally realized sadness isn't your home." His words hung between them, sinking deep. They walked toward the elevator together. As the doors slid shut, their reflections overlapped. A man who had everything except peace, and a woman who had nothing but heart. Neither of them knew it yet, but the line between their stories was about to blur in ways neither expected. Somewhere inside those mirrored doors, a new beginning waited quietly, not of love, not yet, but of understanding. The kind that makes even the broken feel whole again. The following weeks unfolded like a quiet awakening. Lily's visits became a ritual. Same time, same place, same rhythm of healing that she hadn't realized she needed. Ethan never treated her like a patient. He treated her like someone rediscovering how to exist. But one morning, when she arrived, something felt different. The usually calm air of the foundation buzzed with tension. Nurses whispered near the reception, their faces pale. Ethan wasn't in his office. "Is everything okay?" Lily asked a passing nurse. The woman hesitated before answering. Mr. Cross had to leave suddenly. Something about an emergency with his company. Lily nodded, though a strange unease gripped her. She went to the garden anyway, sitting under the oak tree with her sketchbook. But her mind wandered, to Ethan's absence, to the look in his eyes the last time they spoke. There had been something behind his calm, something unspoken. 2 days passed before he returned. He looked exhausted, his suit wrinkled, his voice heavy. Still, when he saw her, he smiled faintly. "You kept coming." "I said I would," she replied. "You don't break a promise to someone who saved you." He laughed softly. "I didn't save you, Lily. You're doing that yourself." But the way he said it, the gentleness in his tone, made her chest tighten. That afternoon, as they walked through the corridor lined with paintings donated by patients, Ethan suddenly stopped. "Do you ever wonder," he said, "why some people enter our lives just when we've given up?" Lily looked at him, uncertain. "Maybe that's what saving looks like," she whispered. He turned away, his expression unreadable. "Maybe." She noticed then a faint tremor in his hand. "Are you okay?" "Just tired," he said quickly, though his eyes told a different story. Later that day, she overheard 2 staff members whispering. "He's not taking his treatment again," one said quietly. "If he keeps ignoring the doctors." Lily froze. "Ethan? Treatment?" The words clung to her thoughts like static. That night, when she saw him leaving, she gathered the courage to ask, "Ethan, are you sick?" He stopped at the door. The silence between them stretched. Finally, he exhaled. I still am, maybe, but it's not something I can medicate." Her throat tightened. "You mean?" He turned to face her, eyes glimmering under the dim hallway light. "A heart condition. Too many years of running from guilt. Turns out you can't outpace what hurts you." Lily stepped closer, voice trembling. "Then why spend all your time helping others? You should rest." He smiled softly. "Helping you is my rest." Something fragile bloomed between them. Not romance, not yet, but something warmer than pity, something real. The next day, Ethan didn't come in again. Instead, his assistant delivered a letter addressed to Lily. It read, "If you ever feel like disappearing again, come to the place where we first met. Sometimes the best medicine isn't forgetting, it's remembering differently." So she did. That evening, Lily returned to the old pharmacy, the place where her pain had once begged for escape. The rain fell just like before, soft and steady. She stood by the window, staring at her reflection. Not the broken girl from before, but someone who had learned how to hold her own pieces. And then, through the glass, she saw Ethan's car pull up. He stepped out slowly, coat draped over his arm, a weak smile tugging at his lips. "Full circle," he said. She nodded, tears threatening. "I thought you weren't coming back." "Neither did I." They both laughed quietly, as though laughter itself was healing. Ethan leaned against the window beside her. "You came here once to forget. Do you still want that?" Lily looked at him, shaking her head gently. "No. I want to remember, but without hurting." He nodded, his eyes soft. "Then you've already healed more than you know." Outside, the rain lightened. The streets glowed gold under the lamps. And for the first time, Lily realized, forgetting wasn't freedom. Forgiving was. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. As they stood in the quiet of that night, Ethan suddenly winced, a hand clutching his chest. Lily's heart stopped. "Ethan." He steadied himself against the wall, breathing shallowly. "It's fine. It just happens sometimes." But she could see it wasn't fine. Let me call someone. He shook his head. No. Just stay here a minute. So she did. She stood beside him, trembling, watching the man who had given her hope now fighting his own fading strength. Do you regret it? She whispered. Helping me? His answer came like a whisper. Never. You reminded me why I still try. Lily bit her lip, tears spilling. The rain outside blurred the world into soft light. And for the first time, the poor girl and the billionaire stood not as broken halves, but as two people, both human, both hurting, both healing. The night stretched endlessly after Ethan's fainting spell. Lily sat beside him on a small bench outside the pharmacy, her hand trembling as she held his. The city buzzed faintly in the distance. Car horns, rain gutters, the hum of late-night traffic. But in that little corner, time stood still. When Ethan's breathing finally steadied, he opened his eyes, tired but peaceful. You didn't leave, he whispered. Of course I didn't, Lily said, brushing rain from his hair. You think I'd walk away from the one person who taught me how to stay? He smiled weakly. Then maybe I did something right after all. A silence followed, not awkward, but tender, filled with everything they couldn't put into words. After a while, she helped him to his car. You shouldn't drive, she said. He nodded. Then you will. Her eyes widened. Me? You said you wanted to stop running. Let's see where that courage takes us. So she drove. Through the sleeping city, past glass towers and dim alleys, the world glowing faintly beneath the drizzle. Ethan sat beside her, gaze turned toward the skyline. You know, Lily, he murmured, when I built my first company, I thought I was buying control. But all I really bought was distance, from people, from pain, from life. Lily kept her eyes on the road. And now? He smiled faintly. Now I trade everything for one more day that feels real. Something in his voice cracked, and she felt it deep in her chest. The raw truth of a man who had learned that wealth couldn't mend what love breaks. They stopped at a quiet lookout overlooking the city. The rain had slowed to a mist, and below them, lights shimmered like spilled stars. Ethan leaned on the railing, breathing slowly, his face pale but calm. This is where I used to come when I lost someone, he said. When I thought there was no coming back. Lily turned toward him. And now you bring me here. He nodded. Because maybe this time, I'm not here to lose. I'm here to let go. The words hit deep, simple, yet heavy with meaning. Ethan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Lily's heart skipped. But when he opened it, it wasn't a ring. It was a small glass vial filled with ocean blue liquid. What is that? She asked softly. He smiled faintly. Something symbolic. When Grace died, I asked a scientist to create a scent that reminded me of her. I kept it locked away all these years, trying not to feel. Now, I want you to have it, not because you should forget, but because you should remember differently. Lily's throat tightened. Ethan, I can't take this. You can, because you'll carry it better than I did. Her eyes filled with tears. You're giving me your memory. I'm giving you freedom, he said quietly. And for the first time, Lily didn't cry from pain. She cried because someone believed she could heal. Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply. They stood there under the gray sky, the city lights shimmering beneath their silence. Ethan looked weaker than before, but there was peace in his eyes. You've taught me something too, he said after a long pause. Lily wiped her cheeks. What's that? That even the poorest soul can give the richest gift, hope. She didn't know what to say. She just reached for his hand and held it. Then, from somewhere below, church bells began to ring softly, echoing through the damp night. Ethan smiled faintly. You hear that? What? Life, he whispered. Hours later, after she drove him home, she sat outside his mansion gate for a while, staring at the glowing windows. It was strange. The billionaire's house looked emptier than her small apartment. When she finally went home, she placed the small vial on her bedside table. The blue liquid shimmered under the lamplight, like a piece of the sky trapped in glass. She whispered to herself, "Healing doesn't erase scars. It just makes them beautiful." And for the first time since Daniel, she fell asleep without nightmares. But fate, as always, wasn't done writing its chapters. Because while Lily was beginning to live again, Ethan's condition was quietly worsening, and soon, she would learn that even the man who gave her light was fighting his own shadow. The days that followed felt eerily calm, almost like the pause before a storm. Lily kept visiting the foundation even though Ethan wasn't there. His assistant, Ms. Rivera, always smiled politely, but her eyes carried a quiet worry. Whenever Lily asked, the answer was the same, "He's just resting." But rest didn't sound like Ethan. He was always moving, always helping, always trying to fix everyone but himself. One afternoon, while Lily was sketching by the oak tree, Ms. Rivera approached her, hesitating. "Lily," she said softly, "Mr. Cross wanted me to give you this." It was another letter, written in Ethan's neat, deliberate handwriting. She unfolded it carefully, her hands trembling. "I know you'll come looking for me. Don't. Not yet. There are things I have to face alone. You once asked what healing meant. It's this. Walking into your own darkness and finding light, even when no one holds the lantern. Promise me you'll keep walking, even if I'm not there." Tears blurred the ink. She could almost hear his voice in every word. That night, the city lights felt colder. She clutched the letter against her heart, whispering into the dark, "I'm not giving up on you." The next morning, she did what she promised not to do. She went to find him. Ethan's mansion, usually alive with staff and movement, was silent. The guard at the gate recognized her and, after a moment of hesitation, let her in. Inside, everything looked the same, except for the emptiness. The piano was covered. The flowers in the hallway had wilted. On the coffee table sat another note, sealed with the same golden crest. Her hands shook as she opened it. "If you're reading this, it means you care enough to break a rule. I'm in the hospital, the same one where we met. Don't cry. Just come if you must. I'd rather see tears than distance." Lily didn't think twice. Within minutes, she was on her way, her heart pounding like it had a voice of its own. When she reached the private ward, the air smelled of antiseptic and rain. A nurse led her down a quiet corridor, then stopped at a door with a silver nameplate, "Ethan Cross." She hesitated, then pushed it open. Ethan was there, pale, weak, but smiling. Tubes ran from his arm, the monitors beeped softly, but his eyes, they were still full of life. "Didn't I tell you not to come?" he said faintly. Lily walked closer, trying to hold back tears. "You knew I would." He laughed weakly. "Yeah, I did." She sat beside him, her fingers brushing his. "You should have told me it was this bad." He sighed. "I didn't want pity. I wanted to be remembered for something better than pain." "Then you already are," she said. "You gave me back my life, Ethan." He smiled, but his gaze drifted toward the window. Outside, the sky was heavy with clouds, like it, too, was holding back tears. After a long silence, he spoke again. "Lily, I've been meaning to tell you something." She leaned closer. "What?" "When Grace died, I thought love was my punishment. But then you showed up. This girl who had every reason to give up, and yet, you didn't." Her eyes shimmered. "Because you taught me not to." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's how it works. Broken people saving broken people." She squeezed his hand. "Then don't leave me to fix myself alone." Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment, his pain seemed to fade. "If I can hold on, I will," he whispered. "If you believe love still wins, comment Amen." Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. Hours passed in gentle silence. The rhythmic beeping of machines became the background to their quiet conversation. They spoke about small things, favorite colors, old dreams, things neither had shared with anyone else in years. At one point, Lily noticed the blue vial still on her keychain. She held it up. Do you remember this? Ethan smiled weakly. Of course. My foolish attempt at bottled hope. It's not foolish, she said. It reminds me that beauty can come from pain. He nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. Then promise me something, Lily. Anything. When I'm gone, don't build walls. Build bridges. Keep giving people what you once needed most. Tears fell freely now. Don't talk like that. He smiled gently. I'm not talking about leaving. I'm talking about living differently. Her heart ached with unspoken fear. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance, as if the sky itself was listening. And in that quiet hospital room, two souls sat side by side, one learning to live, the other learning how to let go. The next few days blurred into a tender rhythm of visits, soft laughter, and quiet fears neither dared to name. Every morning, Lily brought fresh flowers and her sketchbook. Every evening, Ethan asked her to read aloud, poems, stories, fragments of life he hadn't touched in years. The doctors said little, but their eyes told her what she didn't want to hear. Time was slipping. One afternoon, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks, flooding the hospital room in gold. Ethan was sitting up, weak but smiling, as Lily arranged new lilies in the vase by his bed. You're getting good at that, he teased. I learned from the best, she replied, smiling softly. He tilted his head. From me? No, she said gently. From life. It breaks you, then teaches you how to hold things gently. He looked at her for a long moment, the kind of look that carried gratitude too deep for words. You really have changed, he said finally. So have you, she whispered. Ethan's hand trembled as he reached for hers. Lily, do you ever wonder if we meet certain people just to remind us what we're capable of? She nodded slowly. Every day since I met you. He smiled faintly, his breathing shallow. Then I'm glad we crossed paths. Even if it hurts to say goodbye. Lily shook her head, tears already spilling. Don't say that word. He gave a small, tired laugh. You always were stubborn. I learned that from you, she said, gripping his hand tighter. A knock on the door broke the silence. Ms. Rivera entered quietly, setting down a tray. Mr. Cross, your medication. He nodded. Thank you. When she left, he looked at the pills and then at Lily. You know, I used to think strength meant control, being untouchable. But you showed me that strength is surrender. Letting yourself feel. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. And you showed me that even the strongest people need saving sometimes. He smiled, eyes glimmering with unshed tears. Then maybe we saved each other. Lily leaned closer, pressing her forehead gently against his hand. Then don't go. Stay saved. He didn't reply, just brushed a trembling thumb across her cheek. You'll keep the foundation alive for me, won't you? Help others like yourself. Her voice cracked. You're talking like someone who's proud, he interrupted softly. Not scared. The clock on the wall ticked faintly, steady and cruel. Ethan closed his eyes, breathing slowly. You once asked for medicine to forget. Do you still wish for it? She shook her head, tears falling freely. No. You taught me that remembering is how we honor what we've lost. A faint smile curved his lips. Good. Then maybe I can rest. Lily clutched his hand. You'll rest when you're better. Not now. Not yet. He didn't argue. He just looked at her one last time, the light from the window catching the faint silver in his hair, the warmth still lingering in his gaze. Outside, the sky turned to gold, the same color as the card he once handed her. The world seemed to pause. And in that stillness, Lily whispered, You're my medicine, Ethan. He smiled faintly. And you were my cure. A single tear slipped down his cheek as his eyes fluttered closed, his fingers still wrapped around hers. The heart monitor beeped softly, then steadied, quiet but alive. Lily stayed frozen, afraid to move, afraid that letting go meant losing him. Minutes passed before she felt the faint squeeze of his hand. He was still there, Still breathing. Still fighting. Her chest trembled with relief, and for the first time, she smiled through her tears. "You scared me," she whispered. "I'm good at that," he murmured weakly. She laughed, the sound fragile and trembling, but real. "Don't ever do it again." "I'll try," he said, his voice fading, "but I can't promise." She leaned closer. "Promise me one thing, then. Don't forget me." His eyes softened. "Never." If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, "I felt you." That night, Lily sat by his bed long after the nurses had dimmed the lights. She opened her sketchbook and began to draw, not the pain, not the sorrow, but the peace on Ethan's face as he slept. Each line was a memory, each stroke a prayer. She realized then that love didn't always need to end in forever. Sometimes it just needed to be real, even if only for a while. The girl who once begged for a medicine to forget now carried the greatest cure of all. The memory of someone who taught her how to remember with grace. And in the quiet of that room, beneath the hum of machines and the soft rhythm of life, Lily whispered to herself, "This isn't goodbye. It's gratitude." Morning arrived wrapped in silence. The sun, pale and tired, spilled weak light across the white sheets of Ethan's hospital bed. Lily had fallen asleep beside him, her head resting on the edge of the mattress, hands still entwined with his. The monitors hummed softly, steady, fragile, alive. When she opened her eyes, Ethan was already awake, watching her with a faint smile. "You stayed again," he whispered. She nodded, voice hoarse. "I didn't want you to wake up alone." He looked at her for a long time, his gaze distant yet full of warmth. "You remind me of someone," he said softly. "Grace used to wait like that too. Quiet, stubborn, and full of light." Lily smiled sadly. "Then I hope I made her proud too." "You did," he replied. "More than you know." The morning passed slowly. Nurses came and went. Outside the window, the sky turned from pale gold to blue, and birds landed on the ledge as if listening. Lily read to him again, not poems this time, but her own words, scribbled in her notebook. They were letters she had written but never sent, confessions she had hidden beneath sketches and silence. When she finished, Ethan's eyes glistened. "You should publish those one day," he murmured. "People need to hear truth that soft." She shook her head. "It's not about people. It's about you." He smiled weakly. "Then make sure you live the rest of it, for me." A heavy quiet filled the room. He reached for her hand, his skin cool but his grip gentle. "Lily," he whispered, "I've left something for you. In my office drawer, a letter. Promise you'll read it when I'm gone." Tears blurred her vision. "Don't say that. Please." He smiled faintly. "You taught me to face things, remember? This is my turn." Her heart broke in slow motion. She wanted to scream, to beg the world for another minute, another breath. But Ethan's calm anchored her. He wasn't afraid anymore, and somehow, that terrified her more than anything. Minutes turned to hours. The sun began to set, painting the walls with fading orange light. Ethan's breaths grew slower, deeper, softer, like the rhythm of waves retreating from shore. Lily leaned closer. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "You showed me how to live again." He smiled one last time. "And you showed me how to die without fear." His eyes fluttered closed. The monitor let out a single, lingering tone, one that felt both final and merciful. Lily's tears fell freely now, her body trembling as she clutched his hand against her chest. "Thank you," she whispered through sobs. "Thank you for everything." Outside, the world kept moving, cars, clouds, time. But inside that room, one story ended so another could begin. Days later, she returned to his office. The air still smelled faintly of coffee and cologne. His piano stood untouched, the keys catching the light like quiet memories. In the drawer, she found the letter, sealed with the same golden crest. She opened it slowly. "Lily, if you're reading this, I'm finally free, not from life, but from guilt. You gave me that gift. Don't let grief turn you cold. The world needs hearts like yours, messy, kind, unafraid to feel. Take the foundation and run it the way you live, with love. And when you tell people our story, don't make it about loss. Make it about second chances. Your friend forever, Ethan. The paper blurred beneath her tears. But for the first time, they weren't tears of despair. They were gratitude, pure and quiet. Months later, the Cross Foundation opened a new wing, the Lily Grace Center for Emotional Healing. It wasn't a hospital. It was a place for people who carried invisible scars, for hearts that wanted to remember differently. And every morning, sunlight spilled through the glass halls, landing on a small framed quote near the entrance. There is no medicine to forget love, only courage to forgive it. Visitors often saw a young woman sitting beneath that frame, sketching, listening, smiling. Her name tag read, Lily. When asked about the story behind the center, she'd simply smile and say, "It started with a poor girl and a billionaire who believed healing was still possible." Sun with small cloud # if you believe kindness can outlive pain, share this story. Because somewhere out there, someone's still searching for a reason to hope, and your words might be the medicine they need.